They called us the dirt lovers and gravity slaves. While every other species reached for the stars, abandoning their birth worlds for sleek space stations and artificial habitats, humanity did something unprecedented in galactic history: we chose to stay. We chose our flawed, dangerous, unpredictable planet over the safety of sterile metal corridors and controlled atmospheres. The Galactic Council thought we were insane. Why cling to a world that tries to kill you, they asked, watching our hurricanes, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions with horror. Why endure seasons, weather, and the chaos of natural selection when you could live in perfect harmony among the stars? But Earth wasn't just our home, it was our forge. Every storm taught us resilience. Every challenge made us stronger. Every flaw our planet possessed became our greatest advantage. And, when the galaxy faced its darkest hour, when an enemy emerged that no advanced civilization could defeat, they finally understood why humanity never left. Sometimes, the greatest strength comes not from perfection, but from surviving imperfection. This is the story of why we stayed, and why our return to the stars changed everything. Commander Sarah Chen pressed her palm against the observation deck's reinforced glass, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath the station. The blue marble looked deceptively peaceful from here, its swirling white clouds hiding the chaos she knew raged below. Hurricane Patricia was currently devastating the Caribbean, while Mount Vesuvius showed signs of renewed activity. Most species would see these as reasons to abandon such a volatile world. Humanity saw them as reasons to stay. The Altarian delegation is requesting another audience, her aide, Lieutenant Rodriguez, announced from behind her. They're offering upgraded atmospheric processors and a guarantee of citizenship on New Altair Prime. Sarah didn't turn around. She'd heard variations of this offer 1,000 times in the past decade. Ever since humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel and joined the galactic community, every major civilization had extended invitations, bribes, and increasingly desperate pleas for humans to abandon their homeworld. "Same answer as always, Lieutenant," she replied. "We're staying." "Ma'am, if I may ask why they're so insistent?" The other species seemed genuinely confused by our choice. Sarah finally turned, her weathered face showing the kind of lines that came from breathing real air under a real sun, not the filtered atmosphere of a space habitat. "Because they don't understand what Earth gives us that their perfect worlds can't." The lieutenant looked puzzled, so Sarah gestured toward the planet below. "Tell me, Rodriguez, where were you born?" "Detroit, Michigan, ma'am. During the ice storm of 2387. And your parents had to make do without power for 3 days, right? Food running low, pipes freezing, having to burn furniture to stay warm?" "Yes, ma'am. Dad always said it built character." Rodriguez smiled at the memory. "Every other species in the galaxy would call that child abuse," Sarah said. "The Zephyrians have climate-controlled habitats where the temperature never varies by more than 2 degrees. The crystalline collective lives in perfect harmony with their silicon-based environment. The void dwellers haven't experienced natural weather in 10,000 years." She moved to her desk and activated the holographic display, showing statistical data from across human space. "Look at these numbers, Lieutenant. Human psychological resilience scores. Problem-solving ability under pressure. Adaptability ratings. Innovation indexes during crisis situations." The numbers were staggering. In every category that measured the ability to handle unexpected challenges, humanity scored higher than any other known species. Not by small margins, but by factors that made xenopsychologists question their own testing methods. "The Altarians live for 800 years on average," Sarah continued. "But they've never had to adapt to anything their entire civilization hasn't already solved. When their sun began to dim, they simply moved to artificial habitats orbiting other stars. When their population grew too large, they built bigger cities in space. Every problem has a technological solution that removes the problem entirely." "That sounds efficient, ma'am." "It is. But it's also made them brittle." Sarah pulled up another display, this one showing military engagement records. 3 months ago, the Altarian Third Fleet encountered an unexpected solar flare during a routine patrol. Standard procedure called for retreat to safe distance and waiting for the storm to pass. But their navigation computers had a minor glitch, something that should have been easily manageable. Rodriguez leaned forward, interested despite himself. What happened? They panicked. A civilization that had eliminated uncertainty from their lives for millennia couldn't handle a simple equipment malfunction during a natural phenomenon their ancestors had faced countless times. They lost 6 ships and nearly 1,000 crew members to something human captains navigate routinely. The lieutenant was quiet for a long moment. So they want us to leave Earth because they're starting to realize that our primitive attachment to our chaotic homeworld is actually our greatest strategic advantage, Sarah finished. Every hurricane that doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Every earthquake teaches us to build better. Every drought shows us how to do more with less. We're not just surviving Earth's challenges, we're being forged by them. The calm system chimed, and Rodriguez checked the display. Ma'am, priority message from Galactic Command. The Void Dwellers are requesting immediate consultation on something they're calling a Category 9 unknown threat. Sarah raised an eyebrow. The Void Dwellers were perhaps the most advanced species in known space, having transcended physical form millennia ago to become beings of pure energy. For them to request help from anyone was unprecedented. Put it through to the main screen. The image that appeared was unlike anything Sarah had seen in her 20 years of interspecies diplomacy. The Void Dwellers' typical elegant energy matrix was chaotic, flickering with what could only be described as distress. Commander Chen, the being's voice resonated through the quantum communicator, carrying harmonics that spoke of barely controlled panic. We require immediate assistance. We are facing something our calculations never predicted possible. What's the nature of the threat? Sarah asked, keeping her voice calm despite the implications. If the Void Dwellers were scared, the entire galaxy should be terrified. We have encountered entities that appear to exist in a state of constant chaos. They adapt to our defenses faster than our quantum computers can calculate countermeasures. When we attempt to reason with them, they respond with actions that violate every principle of logical behavior. Our most advanced predictive models cannot determine their next move because they seem to make decisions based on factors we cannot comprehend. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine, but not from fear. From recognition. Describe their physical characteristics. They are carbon-based, bipedal, with primitive kinetic weapons supplemented by what appears to be scavenged technology from dozens of different civilizations. Most disturbing of all, they seem to thrive in environments that should be fatal: vacuum exposure, radiation levels that would kill most species instantly, gravitational extremes that should crush their bones. Rodriguez met Sarah's eyes, and she could see he was thinking the same thing she was. These weren't unknown aliens. These were humans. But not humans from any part of space she knew about. Commander, the Void Dweller continued, our analysis suggests these entities have been isolated from galactic civilization for approximately 50,000 Earth years. We believe they may be a previously unknown branch of your species that developed in complete isolation. Sarah's mind raced. 50,000 years ago, before recorded human history, before agriculture, before civilization. If a group of early humans had somehow been transported to deep space and forced to survive in the harshest environments imaginable. What do they want? She asked. They have made no demands. They simply consume. Not in the biological sense, but they absorb every piece of technology they encounter, integrate it into their systems, and use it in ways we never intended. They turn our own tools against us with an intuitive understanding of warfare that defies our combat algorithms. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. These weren't just isolated humans. They were humans who had been forced to adapt to conditions that made Earth's harshest environments look like paradise. While galactic civilization had made every species soft and predictable, these humans had been forged by challenges that made hurricanes and earthquakes seem gentle. They are moving toward the core systems, the Void Dweller added, its energy matrix pulsing with urgency. Our combined fleets cannot stop them. They adapt to every strategy faster than we can implement it. We need someone who thinks like they do. Sarah looked out at Earth again, seeing it with new eyes. Every natural disaster, every challenge that other species saw as a reason to leave, had been preparing humanity for this moment. Earth hadn't been trying to kill them, it had been training them. "Lieutenant," she said quietly, "get me Admiral Harrison on the secure channel. And send a message to all human colonies and outposts. Tell them we're calling them home." "Ma'am?" "It's time for Earth's children to come home," Sarah said, watching the blue marble turn in space. "All of them. Because what's coming isn't just a threat to humanity, it's a test of everything Earth taught us. And I have a feeling we're going to need every lesson we learned." As if responding to her words, a small notification appeared on her personal display. Seismic activity in the Pacific Ring of Fire was increasing. Another challenge from their restless planet. Sarah smiled grimly. Perfect timing. They were going to need all the practice they could get. Admiral Marcus Harrison stood in the war room beneath the Rockies, surrounded by holographic displays showing the exodus that had begun 3 days ago. Human ships from across the galaxy were streaming back toward Earth, answering a call that went deeper than military orders. It was the call of children returning to their mother's arms. "Status report," he commanded, his voice cutting through the controlled chaos of the command center. 67% of human colonial fleets have responded, reported Captain Williams, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. The remainder are still en route or finishing evacuation procedures from joint species stations. "And our guests?" Harrison asked, nodding toward the segregated section where representatives from 12 different species watched the preparations with expressions ranging from confusion to barely concealed terror. "Getting restless. The Crystalline Collective's ambassador has asked 3 times why we're not fleeing to the outer rim like every other civilization." Harrison almost smiled. They still didn't understand. While the rest of the galaxy ran from the threat, humanity was doing what it had always done when faced with something dangerous and unknown. They were moving toward it. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Commander Park from the communications station. "We're receiving telemetry from the advanced scout ships. The entities have engaged the Zephyrian 4th Battle Group near the Veil Nebula. Put it on the main display." The war room fell silent as the footage played. The Zephyrian ships, elegant works of art that could dance between stars, moved in perfect formation against their attackers. Their energy weapons painted space with brilliant colors as they fired in synchronized patterns that had won them a dozen wars. It lasted exactly 47 seconds. The attacking ships moved like no vessels anyone had ever seen. They rolled and twisted through space in patterns that should have torn them apart, using their own momentum as weapons. When the Zephyrian beam struck them, they absorbed the energy and immediately reconfigured their shields to redirect it back at their attackers. But that wasn't the terrifying part. The terrifying part was how they fought. They used debris from the first destroyed Zephyrian ship as projectile weapons. They rammed enemy vessels at angles that shouldn't have been survivable, yet somehow their crude-looking hulls held together while the elegant alien ships crumpled. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to be enjoying it. "Dear God," whispered Captain Williams. "They're laughing." The audio pickup from one of the attacking vessels was indeed carrying what sounded like human laughter, wild and fierce and utterly unconcerned with the fact that they were fighting in the vacuum of space against overwhelming odds. "Admiral," the Altarian representative spoke up from the observer section, his voice trembling. "These creatures cannot be reasoned with. They show no regard for their own survival, no logical approach to warfare. How do your people expect to succeed where our combined fleets have failed?" Harrison turned to face the alien, his weathered face showing the kind of confidence that came from a lifetime of facing the impossible. "Because those aren't just creatures, Ambassador. Those are humans. And I'm starting to understand what 50,000 years of hell did to them." He gestured to the tactical display, where new information was streaming in from long-range sensors. "Look at their ships. Really look at them. Those aren't designed vessels, they're grown. Adapted. Modified from whatever they could find or take." The alien ships were indeed unlike anything in galactic databases. They appeared to be amalgamations of dozens of different technologies, but somehow they worked together in perfect harmony. A crystalline collective power core connected to void dweller navigation systems, wrapped in what looked like repurposed asteroid mining equipment and held together with materials that defied easy identification. They've been doing what humans have always done, Harrison continued. They've been making do with what they have, adapting to survive, and turning every disadvantage into a strength. But they've been doing it in deep space, with no backup, no resources except what they could take or build themselves, for 50,000 years. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's lead xenobiologist, stepped forward from her position at the analysis station. I've been studying the DNA samples we recovered from the Void Dweller encounters. The genetic drift is remarkable. They're definitely human, but the mutations. She paused, her face pale. Admiral, they've evolved. Not just culturally, but physically. Enhanced bone density for high-G maneuvers, improved radiation resistance, neural pathways that process information faster than baseline human norms. They're what we could have become, Harrison said quietly, if Earth hadn't been enough. If we'd been forced to adapt to challenges that made our homeworld look safe. The main display chimed with an incoming transmission. The image that appeared showed space itself seeming to burn as another engagement began near the Centauri system. This time, the defenders were human colonial forces that hadn't made it back to Earth yet. This is Captain Torres of the civilian transport convoy Delta 7, a woman's voice crackled through the calm. We've got unknown hostiles moving to intercept. Request immediate assistance. Negative, Delta 7, came the response from the Colonial Defense Coordinator. Fall back to safe distance. Military vessels will handle the threat. But, even as the order was given, the civilian ships were changing course. Not away from the threat, but toward it. Belay that order, Captain Torres replied, her voice carrying the kind of calm determination that every human in the war room recognized. We've got 300 families aboard these transports, including kids who've never seen Earth. We're not running from some bullies who think they can terrorize our people. The Altarian ambassador made a sound of distress. They cannot possibly survive. Those are civilian vessels against unknown military threats. But Harrison was watching the tactical display with growing pride. The civilian ships were moving in patterns that looked chaotic but weren't random at all. They were using classic Earthborn tactics, making themselves unpredictable, forcing the enemy to react instead of plan, turning their apparent weakness into confusion for their attackers. The first salvo from the unknown vessels struck the transport convoy's lead ship. Instead of exploding or retreating, the damaged vessel immediately altered course to ram its attacker while broadcasting its cargo manifest. Unknown vessels, Captain Torres's voice came through, steady despite the fact that her ship was bleeding atmosphere and losing power. You're attacking a civilian convoy carrying children, medical supplies, and refugees from the Vega colony disaster. If you want to fight, you've got one. But know that you're about to learn why humans don't abandon their own. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The civilian convoy didn't fight like a military unit. They fought like a human family protecting its children. Ships that should have been helpless became improvised weapons. Cargo containers became projectiles. Transport vessels designed for comfort became suicide bombs guided by pilots who sang old Earth songs as they flew. And the attacking vessels, these evolved humans who had survived 50,000 years in the depths of space, suddenly stopped firing. This is the pack leader Kane of the Voidwalkers, came a voice that was unmistakably human but changed by millennia of evolution. The accent was strange, the grammar archaic, but the words were clear. We know these songs. The battle stopped as if someone had pressed a pause button. On the display, the attacking vessels hung motionless in space while the damaged civilian convoy maintained their defensive positions. You sing the old songs, Kane continued, his voice carrying emotions that seemed almost forgotten. The songs of the first home. The warm place. The blue place. Captain Torres responded carefully. Earth. You're talking about Earth. Earth. The word was spoken like a prayer. We have searched so long for the children of Earth. We thought you had all grown soft like the others. Like the cold ones who build in metal and forget the ground beneath their feet. Harrison leaned forward, his mind racing. They're not invaders, he said. They're looking for us. For family. Warm children of the blue place, Kane's voice continued. We have become cold in the dark between stars. We have forgotten much. But we remember the songs. We remember the promise. What promise? Torres asked. The promise that no child of Earth would ever stand alone in the dark. That family would always come when family called. In the war room beneath the Rockies, the assembled representatives from 12 galactic civilizations watched as 50,000 years of separation ended with words spoken in the dark between stars. The scattered children of Earth had found each other again. But Harrison knew this was only the beginning. These evolved humans, these voidwalkers, had been changed by their long exile. They were still human, but they were also something more, something harder and colder and infinitely more dangerous. And if they were looking for family, it meant something had driven them to seek out Earth again after 50 millennia of silence. Something that made even these hardened survivors of the deep dark need allies. Captain Torres, Harrison spoke into the calm escort our cousins home. It's time for a family reunion. The first Voidwalker ship to enter Earth's atmosphere was a patchwork giant that looked like it had been built from the corpses of 100 different vessels. It descended through the clouds with impossible grace, its hull scarred by millennia of survival in the deep dark, while every military satellite and defense grid on the planet tracked its movement. Sarah Chen stood on the landing pad at Edwards Space Force Base, watching humanity's lost children come home. The ship touched down with barely a whisper, its alien tech landing systems compensating for Earth's gravity with the ease of long practice. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then, a section of hull that hadn't looked like a door suddenly, iris opened, and the Voidwalkers stepped onto Earth for the first time in 50,000 years. They were still recognizably human, but changed in ways that made Sarah's breath catch. Taller than baseline humans, with bones that looked too dense and muscles that moved with predatory efficiency. Their eyes had adapted to the darkness between stars, larger and more sensitive, reflecting light like a nocturnal animal's. But when the first of them knelt and pressed his palm to the concrete landing pad, tears ran down his face. Ground, he whispered in accented English that carried the weight of eons. Real ground. Not metal, not stone shaped by machines. Ground that remembers sky. More Voidwalkers emerged from the ship, and each one repeated the ritual. Touching Earth. Breathing real atmosphere. Looking up at a sun that warmed their faces without trying to kill them. Some of them broke down entirely, overcome by sensations their people had only dreamed about for centuries of generations. Pack leader Kane was the last to emerge, and, when he did, every human present understood why the galaxy had been unable to stop these people. He moved like violence barely contained, his enhanced physiology obvious in every gesture. But, when he saw Sarah approaching, he stopped and performed what looked like an ancient bow. Warmkeeper, he said, using a title that seemed to come from the deepest parts of human memory. We bring words from the far dark. Words of the devourers who follow the cold roads between all lights. Sarah felt ice form in her stomach. The devourers? Not alive things that eat the spaces between thoughts, Kane replied, his primitive but precise language painting a picture that quantum physics couldn't adequately describe. They come behind us, following the warm scent we leave when we touch the machine places of the soft species. They feed on order, on the patterns that thinking creatures make when they build safe places. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her portable scanner discreetly taking readings. Pack leader, are you saying these entities are drawn to organized civilization? Kane's laugh was bitter. All the star children who build pretty metal homes, who make rules for how thinking should go, who smooth away the rough edges that cut but also strengthen, they shine like beacons in the hungry dark. The devourers follow that light and consume the patterns that make minds work in straight lines. The implications hit everyone present simultaneously. Every galactic civilization had evolved toward greater order, more efficient systems, more predictable outcomes. They had created exactly the kind of organized patterns that attracted these cosmic predators. But, you survived, Sarah said. How? We learned from the hard teachers in the cold places, Kane replied. When you cannot predict what tomorrow will bring, when every day the universe tries to kill you in new ways, when survival means breaking all the rules that soft thinking makes, then you become too wild for the devourers to understand. They cannot eat chaos because chaos has no pattern to consume. Admiral Harrison's voice came through Sarah's comm device. Sarah, get him to the briefing room. We're getting reports from the outer rim. Entire star systems going dark, not destroyed but empty. Like everything that could think just stopped. The briefing that followed was unlike anything in human military history. Kane and his senior Voidwalkers sat around the same table as Earth's finest strategic minds, while representatives from dozens of alien species watched via hologram from their retreating fleets. The Voidwalkers' description of the Devourers defied conventional understanding. They weren't really beings in any sense that civilized species could comprehend. They were more like cosmic storms that fed on complexity, reducing organized systems to random noise. They couldn't be fought with traditional weapons because they existed partially outside normal spacetime. Every time a species tries to build perfect systems, Kane explained, gesturing with hands that had been modified by generations of genetic adaptation, they create more food for the hungry things. The metal builders, the crystal singers, the energy dancers all make such beautiful patterns that the devourers can taste them from galaxies away. Then, how do we stop them? Asked the Crystalline Collective's representative, its harmonic voice tight with fear. You don't stop them, said Kane. You become something they cannot eat. The silence that followed was broken by Dr. Vasquez. You're talking about controlled chaos. Introducing random elements into our systems to make them too unpredictable to consume. The storm teaches good, Kane nodded approvingly. But, not just random making in the thinking machines. Random in the heart places where choices are born. The warm children who stayed with the blue world, they still know this teaching. They build strong by breaking, grow wise by making mistakes, become hard by choosing the difficult path. Sarah understood. That's why you came back. Not just to warn us, but because you need us. We are good at surviving, Kane admitted. 50,000 cold years made us very good at not dying. But, surviving is not the same as living. We forgot how to make new things, how to grow instead of just endure. The Devourers taught us to be chaos, but we lost the balance. We need the warm children to remember us how to be both wild and wise. The next hours were spent in planning sessions that would have given military strategists nightmares. The solution the combined human forces developed wasn't a battle plan in any traditional sense. It was a philosophy of controlled unpredictability applied to every aspect of galactic civilization. Human colonial fleets spread out across known space, not to fight the Devourers directly but to teach other species how to survive them. They showed the Altarians how to introduce random elements into their perfect atmospheric systems. They taught the Void Dwellers how to embrace uncertainty in their energy matrices. They helped the Crystalline Collective learn to sing songs that had never been sung before. Most importantly, they convinced the fleeing civilizations to stop running in predictable patterns and start moving like humans had always moved, opportunistically, chaotically, adapting to whatever they found instead of imposing predetermined solutions. The final confrontation, when it came, wasn't a battle in any conventional sense. The Devourers arrived at the edges of the galaxy like a storm of unmaking, reaching out with tendrils that could unmake the quantum foundations of reality itself. But, instead of finding the ordered civilizations they expected to consume, they found something that had never existed before in their eons of feeding. They found chaos with purpose. Random systems that somehow still worked. Fleets that moved without patterns but still protected their people. Entire species that had learned to be unpredictable without losing their essential nature. And, at the heart of it all, they found Earth. Still chaotic, still dangerous, still throwing hurricanes and earthquakes and volcanic eruptions at her children. But, now those children were spread across the galaxy, teaching every species they met that strength came not from avoiding challenges but from dancing with them. The Devourers couldn't consume what they couldn't understand, and they couldn't understand a galaxy that had learned to be human. The war, such as it was, ended not with victory but with stalemate. The Devourers withdrew to the spaces between galaxies, unable to feed on a universe that had learned to embrace productive chaos. And humanity, Both the branch that had stayed home and the branch that had been forged in the deep dark finally understood why they had been separated for so long. They had needed to learn two different lessons. Earth's children had learned how to stay human while growing strong. The Voidwalkers had learned how to become something more while staying alive. Together, they could teach the galaxy how to be both. Sarah stood once again at the observation deck, watching Earth turn in space. But now she wasn't alone. Kane stood beside her, his evolved eyes seeing wavelengths she couldn't perceive, his enhanced hearing picking up the quantum whispers of space itself. "The blue world is smaller than I remembered," he said softly. "Everything looks smaller when you've grown," Sarah replied. "But it's still home." "Yes," Kane agreed. "And now we remember what home means. Not just the place that bore you, but the place that teaches you how to bear everything else." Below them, Earth continued its ancient dance of creation and destruction, forging new generations of humans who would carry its lessons to whatever challenges the universe had yet to offer. The galaxy was safe, not because humanity had conquered its enemies, but because it had taught the universe how to be unconquerable. And, in the deep dark between stars, the Devourers waited and wondered at the strange new thing that had been born from the marriage of chaos and love, of wildness and wisdom, of the planet that tried to kill its children and the children who loved it anyway.